to you. I first fell in love with Betsy in junior high, and I was drawn to her because she was fun and happy and always game for an adventure. Um, Most of our adventures, we didn't have to go very far to feel that we'd been somewhere. When my parents were out of town in high school, I was sleeping at Betsy's house, and her mom called just in the middle of winter, boring day, and said, I'm going to leave work early, come to Designer Textiles, and I'm going to take you guys to Park City. And it was during the Sundance Film Festival. So we went up for shopping and lunch and celebrity watching. And now I have never known who was cool or what celebrities to watch, but I had the two best guides that day. Betsy has always known what the latest trends in fashion and what to eat and where to travel are. It was Betsy that introduced my family to real sushi, which does not include a California roll. She ordered eel for us and then ate it all by herself. We weren't very adventurous. When Betsy was on a girls' trip with my family, my sisters and mom, we were all huddled around a little tide pool looking at an octopus. And my sister was realizing we were sitting on all these mussels. So she, knowing Betsy was adventurous, said, Betsy, have you ever had mussels? And she looked at her arms and was super disappointed and was like, oh, I used to. And when she realized we meant the seafood a few minutes later, she threw her head back and gave us her wonderful Betsy laugh. I think one of the best attributes you can have in a travel companion is someone with a sense of humor and the ability to laugh at themselves. In high school, Betsy was sleeping at my house, and in the middle of the night, we decided we had to find the house of a boy she liked. It didn't matter, we had no idea where he lived, but it did matter that we had black beanies so that we could be official stalkers, and we headed out into the night. And after hours, we actually found his house. But we spent the night singing and eating candy and just enjoying each other. Betsy has always been more about the journey than the destination. Although Betsy is a hard-nosed, no-nonsense, successful businesswoman, if you put her next to a spider, she's gone. She's done. Sydney and I were on a trip with her at the cabin, and the whole way down, she was telling us how she loves the outdoors and hiking and camping, and we didn't know this about her. We were so impressed. And not 4 minutes into the trip, she saw a spider on the porch and was ready to go home. And we spent the rest of the trip on spider duty and left exhausted. And the way home, she spent the whole time saying how much she loves Vegas, not camping. In truth, Betsy is one of the most fearless and resilient women I know. She's moved to Huntington Beach alone, Hawaii, and has found glamorous jobs and amazing friends wherever she's gone. She bought her own business despite tremendous obstacles, and with the help of your proud dad, learned the financial aspects of the little gym. Thank you for our great adventures together. I will treasure them always. I hope you look at the faces of everybody here who is here to celebrate you. I know your parents are here in memory and in spirit. I imagine a lifetime of adventures for you too, but hope that you know that this is where home is and come back to us often. We all envy your permanent traveling partner, who besides having amazing hair, is accomplished and kind. Marriage is not a destination, but a tremendous expedition that will involve knowing trends, being fearless and resilient, using muscles, and enjoying the journey. Please raise your glasses to a woman who knows how to travel well and to her lucky companion. To your journey.
Caitlin, I'm not sure if we can be friends after that, because that was really good and I can't live up to that. So I'm going to apologize now. But this is so cool. Like, this is such a surreal experience. Like, being someone's best man, it's like every kid wants to. And it's extra amazing because Scotty hated me when we first met. And the words he actually uses are a little more colorful, but there's children here and people drinking cider, so I won't use the real words. So it's awesome. I mean, Janet said it last night at the rehearsal dinner. Scotty's the type of son who every mom wants, but he's the type of guy every guy wants as a friend. I mean, he's always down for late night games of Catan until the sun came up or the Jack Daniels bottle got empty. Midnight trips to Vegas for In-N-Out Burger where you crashed the car and there was no discussion of stopping. We just kept going. Still surprised we lived through that. I mean, he was always there for you. And he's the type of guy when you have to tell him you both just lost one of your best friends. His first question is, How are you doing, man? He's always been there for me. He's always been there for everyone in his life. And Betsy, you're a really lucky lady. I hope you always remember that. And I know you guys will be happy, and I know everything will work out. So let's raise our glasses to the happy couple. Cheers.
Okay, I took a few notes down on my phone, so I promise that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm not, not texting or anything. So when I first met Betsy and she had the same name as my cat, I knew we would be friends for life. That actually ended up being quite an issue for us on our nightly phone calls that we would have together. And I'd say things like, "No, Betsy, you can't go outside." And, that would really confuse Betsy. Like, "What are you talking about, Ange?" But through our countless conversations, I've learned a lot from Betsy. Never have your eyebrows too thin. You should always contour your face. And plenty of workout tips for that natural butt lift. But it doesn't take more than meeting Betsy and seeing how beautiful she is to know that she's obviously knowledgeable on these types of topics. She's continually surprised me with her outer strength when I go into an arm wrestling or wall squats contest with her with a lot of confidence, and somehow I've always seemed to lose against her. But even more so, with all the trials she's been through, she's continued to surprise me with her inner strength and resilience. She's one of the most intelligent, independent women that I've ever known. And I thought I wouldn't cry, but despite all of her focus on being a really successful businesswoman, she's also always managed to be the life of the party and always see the positive in everyone and everything. And I really look up to her as a friend and as a woman. With all of these qualities that Betsy holds, I knew it would take a very special man to win her heart. Until the night that Betsy came to me after she had had a call with Scotty and said, "I just realized I'm in love with Scotty." And from that moment, I knew that Scotty really was the right man for her. And Scotty, you're an amazing man, and I couldn't be more happy that Betsy has found you as her perfect match. I couldn't be happier for the both of you, and I wish you a life full of adventure and love. So cheers to the bride and groom.
All right, so my name is Mike Parkin. When I met Scott, I realized he had the same name as my cat, and we were best friends. That's wrong. I'm sorry. No, I've been fortunate to know Scott for the last 11 years. We were in the same fraternity together in college. I actually was fortunate to meet Betsy at the same time up at the University of Utah, as well as many of these people up here. I honestly couldn't be happy for two people. I've known them both for a long time. I've been roommates with Scott 3 different times. I worked with Betsy, and they're both amazing people and both deserve the most happiness in the world. I feel really fortunate to be able to speak because I know he could have chosen any of the rest of them up there, and I'm very, very honored. So here's to the happy couple.
Hi, I'm Sue Parker, and I have no relationship with Betsy, blood-wise, but she's been such a dear friend to me. I had the privilege to have Betsy live with me for a few wonderful years, and she brought me such joy and happiness. I've known her for a long time because her mom, who I know is with us tonight, Bets, was a good friend of mine, and I remember the phase that she went through then, which was her pigtail phase, and her mom would do her pigtail so tight it's like a premature facelift she'd have. She was such a darling little spoiled girl, and I loved her so much. And then I remember through her teenage years when she was wearing Western clothes, amazingly, every time I saw her, and I thought it was kind of sad that she kind of had gone off somewhere. But then I found out she was working at the Cowboy Grub, and I felt stupid, and She lived with me through her college years when she majored in sorority and minored in fraternity parties. We don't want to talk about that, though. What she was really fascinating with to me was when she was in her YN period. And doing a complete 180, she discovered that all she needed was her backpack and the few items in it to live happily. And she'd forsaken makeup, designer bags, and hair extensions at that time. And it was so precious and pure, but that went away. And luckily, I got to take her on a couple of trips to Mexico with me. And boy, the first one, I was angry. We had this beautiful place we stayed, and she really got into the culture, not. She spent her whole week, it was an entire week, eating power bars, working out in the gym, and sun tanning with iPod things in her ears because she was preparing for a trip to Lake Powell. And now she's found her one and only. He didn't come from Hawaii as most of us would have imagined, but he did come from the coast. So did I, the same coast of the Great Salt Lake. And we're both Magna people. And I'm very fond of that, and it's such a bonding moment, don't you think? And lo and behold, Betsy married a rocket scientist. And wow, that's pretty neat. And Betsy's told me they've come up with a perfect understanding. He won't try to run her life, and he won't try to run his own either. So that's going to be great. Well, Betsy and Scott, on behalf of all of us here, I'm sure I can wish you that for better or worse, that your better or worse is always better than your worst, that all your hopes and dreams will come true, and that your love will grow in each passing year. May all your ups and downs come only in the bedroom. And I didn't mean that. Or I guess I did. And may the best of your yesterdays be the worst of your tomorrows. I love you so much, Betsy and Scott. Thank you.
Well, I'm not even going to try to follow that act. That was too good. A wise man once said you should always start a speech with either a quote or, something from the heart or something funny. I'm not funny, so we're going to go with a quote. We're going to talk about champagne. It was actually Napoleon Bonaparte that once said, "In victory, one deserves champagne. In defeat, one needs it." Tonight, we're celebrating the former rather than the latter. It's a victory, minor as it may be, that both of you came together tonight and that we're here all gathered to celebrate that. I have had the privilege of knowing both the bride and groom for a number of years and could not be happier to be a part of their lives. They're wonderful friends, wonderful people. Scotty was one of the most influential people in my college career. He actually got me to join the Pike House. He was one of those guys that was the selling point, and our friendship has only grown since then. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. There's nothing that hasn't been said that I don't agree with. These are two of the greatest people that I've ever had the privilege of knowing. I want to give my shout out to the people over here. Some of my people. I'm not going to drop the mic because I know that would just damage it, but thank you all for listening to the bride and groom.
I'm a numbers guy. I majored in economics. I'm an analyst. I work with statistics. And so this toast is going to have to do with some of the important numbers throughout our lives. Also to show, especially Scotty, how thankful Betsy should be to her older brothers. The first number I'll start out with is 2. This number requires a little background. When I was 16, I excitedly, when I went out to go out with my friends one night, I forgot to open the garage door before I backed out, and I backed through it. You might be wondering why the number is 2. Well, that's because 4 months later I did it to the other garage door, thus paving the way for anything stupid that any of my younger siblings could do in a car could not top what their oldest brother had done. The next number is 9. That is the combined total of hours of class skipped between me and Gideon, number 2. I think this blinded my mom because it paved the way for a record number for Charlie and Betsy. I don't have that number because my Excel spreadsheet stopped at 65,000 rows. The next numbers they're 2. It's 1,208. So 1,208. Separate numbers. These are the numbers I would tend on occasion when our mom was working. And Betsy will tell you that the way I dealt with Charlie and Betsy when they fought a lot. They were 13 months apart. She will gladly tell anybody that my way of dealing with it was sticking them in the bathroom to, resolve the conflict. And she would, in her head, I swear that number is 1,200. It actually is 8. So there you go. There are the real numbers. And it prepared you for conflict resolution in your current position. 87.2. That is the percent of conversation at our family gatherings when we go to lunches and whatnot that revolves around Betsy and her dealings. Now, I did some regression analysis to project the future of this, and it's actually good news, guys. It's going to go down to 79.8% after this wedding. 18,000, that's the number of miles put on Dad's Land Cruiser at 8 miles per gallon, while Betsy was talking about getting a car that was more economical in terms of gas mileage. One thing that Scotty we all know this about Betsy. If you tell her she shouldn't or can't do something, it only makes her want to do it more. For instance, it's not a good idea to be a business owner and live in another state, Betsy. Or you should finish school, Betsy. Or are you sure you want to buy a house in a state where you don't live, Betsy? Well, this trait played a very important role in the courtship of Betsy and Scotty. The next number is 4,300, and that is the number of miles between Salt Lake and Korea, because that's what it took for Betsy to realize that she was in love with Scotty. It can also be used you got to use it carefully, Scotty, but it can be used in your advantage, such as, you do look too tired tonight. The last one is the number 5. And that's the number of days that it took that we came together after our dad passed away last January. And we were truly a unit of one. And I knew I liked Scotty before that all happened. But when he came and said that the greatest thing that he witnessed during this time was how we came together as one, as a family, that's when I knew that you were a perfect fit. And I'm so grateful to have you in the family and your parents, and love you guys. Best wishes to the bride and groom.
It's not too late to tell me I can't do this. That is past. Part 1, Betsy. Betsy shared a quote with me about 2 weeks ago. And it says, "For a seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must come completely undone. The shell cracks, its insides come out, and everything changes. To someone who doesn't understand growth, it would look like complete destruction." I just want to focus on, people hear that quote and they think of this seed evolving. I want to focus on the destruction. And Betsy represents the seed in this story. But necessary for the seed to sprout and be so great is the destruction. And I played a great role in that. One story, I was probably 15, you were 14. 13-month difference, keep in mind. Whoops. I'd had enough of her, and she just kept poking the bear, and I snapped. And I just grabbed the duct tape, put her on her face, and just hog-tied her. Duct taped her arms behind her back, her legs together, and then the arms to the legs on her stomach. And she was just in tears the whole time, kind of terrified, didn't know where this was going. And, I mean, she didn't even fight it. You just kind of stood there and you just laid there and cried, and I was done. There was no stopping it. I did have some compassion. I gave her a pillow. And I walked away from the situation. My mom came home a couple hours later to find Betsy laying on the ground, face down, hogtied, with tears streaming down her face, and she proceeded to laugh. I think Betsy was more offended by my mom's laugh than by what I had done. I was basically forgiven. The next story I'm going to share about helping Betsy come out of her shell a bit. I'm going to actually do a little demonstration for you. You might remember this from about that same time frame. I was probably 15 or 16 years old. But Patrick, I think I'm going to need that guitar. I'm not good at guitar. I was learning in high school. And this was probably the one and only song I ever wrote. And it's called My Sister. Do you remember this? You do? Oh. I'm good. She's my sister. She's my sister. She's my sister. She's my sister. She has a love handle with a mole on it. She wears shirts that'll never fit. She hangs out with kids who smoke and do crack. She's got a whole lot of hair on her back. She's my sister. She's my sister. She's my sister. She's my sister. This was the kind of ridicule she faced pretty much every day of her life with me. And I spared you from other verses. But, so that's part one. Part two, Scotty. This is the good part. Scotty entered our family. I mean, Betsy had never really brought boyfriends around. She'd had boyfriends, but given the kind of displays that you've seen, she didn't want to bring him around her family too much. But she brought Scotty around, and we were immediately impressed. And I feel like, my father-in-law is actually sitting over there, and generally at a wedding, the father might give the bride away with some trepidation. But in Scotty's case, it is like, I felt like I was about to sell my house for above market value, and I was like, this deal better not fall out. I cannot say enough good things about Scott. He is, truly, he's a rocket scientist, for one. I think morally, he's just as good a guy as you can get, and clearly he and Betsy are soulmates. But congrats to both of you, and happy marriage.